Our guild has made a 3x3 project in GameMaker. We presented it to Sebastian. He sent it to a technician and gave the okay to participate in Alpha 4. But later we heard that Alpha only accepts 2x2 projects. Is there any way we can cut our project or copy it and use it for Alpha 4? That's a challenging issue. So if you have an experience that is larger, what happens is it runs better if it's a 2x2 or a 1x1. If you're going to have more logic, 1x1 is most advisable. But if you're going with something that's a 3x3, it can just cause with some people's devices, it's just going to cause more issues with running less efficiently. Sorry, but there's not a way that I know of to be able to take an experience and change the size of it. I don't know if someone from our level design team can give any input into that, but I think it would be a challenge to I'm curious if you completed the project first, but it would be a challenge to try and size it down. You could have to cut out different areas of your plans to get it to fit to the smaller world, or you could try and take advantage of the vertical space and maybe stack some things underground if you haven't used that space. But if you had, if you had to rebuild it, I know that you can build it pretty quickly, having all of the logic and all of the dialogue and everything figured out already. But it is obviously a pain to have to do, all of that again. So level design, do you know if there's a way to copy an experience and change the size at all? I'm not even sure how that would be,
not really.
How you would decide what to cut.
No, unfortunately, no, it's not something we can do. We can duplicate a map with a very, well, not painful process, but let's say
hacky sort of.
Hacky process. But other than that, no, I don't think it's doable. Maybe, Alma, maybe you have something in mind?
No. Can you? Yeah, you can hear me. No, not really. Like TV said, we can duplicate maps, but it's not possible to size them once you have selected the size in the GameMaker.
So what I would do is, if you want to get that experience in season 4, then figure out how you can preserve what you've made, what is necessary, what's the most critical parts, and physically how can you fit those into a 2x2, and then just go through the game blocking out everything, starting with that first, with your new kind of reformatted shape of everything, and then decide from there. If it's just not possible to fit certain parts of your game just because of the size of things, then maybe adjust your story. Some games don't have a story, it could just be a social hub, but decide how your game needs to change to adjust to that size, and then go through your logic and your dialogue. You've got all these things that you've already planned out and you want to build, and you just have to fit it instead into this other shape. So I'm hoping that you're not too far along in building that, and even if you are, it's pretty easy. Like, I've done side by side with 2 GameMakers open at the same time. Just, okay, so here's what I have set up, and I just build it really fast because I already know the amount of space that I need for things, and it just makes the flow quicker. So it's frustrating, but it's not something that's impossible, and it's not. I think it'll run a little bit more smoothly once you figure out, how do I cut this down size-wise? How do I fit into that space? Because that is a big amount of land to cut. Let me see. I've got a question. Will experiences built on the current version of GameMaker be compatible with the new version, or are there certain features in the experience that will have to be updated or adapted to the new version? This is, like I said last time, it's always good to go through your experiences and make sure that everything is functioning the way that it should. For example, I just jumped into an experience the other day that I made before in the new version of GameMaker that I've gotten a chance to work with, and had to adjust the position of an asset because something had changed about that. And things might function slightly differently because of that, but that's just why it's good to check. It's not going to make experiences completely obsolete that are more recent. However, there are like older experiences that are just, sort of different file structure and won't work with newer versions of GameMaker. So you try to open them from the gallery and they just won't. So, and that's not the case with games that are recent. It's supposed to be backwards compatible. But yeah, always good to go back and just double check, play through, just do QA real quick, go through the whole thing, make sure everything is the way you expected it to be. Okay, another question. Are we able to receive a message sent within the same object? For example, open door message will be able to send and receive the message from the door itself instead of having the door receive the message from a different object. I'm pretty sure that's not going to change. That's kind of an essential way that it works. But obviously, level design, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you shouldn't be able to send a message from an object and receive the same message at that object.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I can see why you asked, because it would be efficient in terms of logic, but it's not happening soon. What we do recommend is to use Message Broadcaster, because it can send one message to different objects at once and even convert several messages into one message. But yes, not possible right now.
Yeah, I personally don't expect that to change because while it might seem simpler, it's actually not too difficult to find an object nearby and just, give it that property. If it's something that's just scenery sitting there, as long as you know what that object is in the room, then you're not really having to add any extra objects. You're just, each object has to do its own separate thing. So it can't, I just don't see it changing. When will GameMaker be available for everyone? I don't know if that's been announced yet because it should be very soon. JB, do you have any idea when it's going to be released to the public and if we're allowed to say that? Because I think I know, but I don't want to say if I'm not supposed to.
I'm not sure, so let's say for the moment we could can keep that
soon.
on the side. Yeah, knows that we are playtesting internally a lot at the moment to make sure that you're gonna have like a great GameMaker version, new GameMaker version. I'm not sure we are allowed to share any dates at the moment. So we'll keep it that way for the moment, but knows that we are in the process of finishing the whole thing.
Okay, and then there's a question. Is there going to be a way to assign more than one behavior to an asset? I don't believe so. I think if anything, there's just because sometimes those behaviors can conflict with each other. So, I mean, that would be probably a very limited thing if someone were planning on doing that kind of change. But I know that some behaviors might change and probably be able to be more useful. So those are things that we have in mind. I believe for 0.75, we'll be able to see some changes with that. But probably 0.7 is going to be more of, oh, this works really well now. This is really consistent. These are the kinds of things that we're working on making it work better and adding and building on that. A couple of questions. Will lighting in the GameMaker be redone? Now it does not match the lighting in BoxEdit at all. So there are changes coming to lighting. I'm not sure if it's going to, and that's the thing, that's a challenge. Your lighting in BoxEdit and Marketplace and GameMaker are not all exactly the same. So it's a bit difficult to get it just right in GameMaker, and that's why you have to test a lot to make sure that it matches what you're aiming for. I don't think that the changes to the lighting are related to aligning it closer to what it looks like in VoxEdit, but more of adding sort of environmental, like soft glow on some objects where you could add light to an area, and that will change the way that object looks because it, kind of affects the, wherever you place it, however close to that light would change how it appears in the game. So that might make the color appear a little bit different. And so that's the thing. It's not going to be a simplified system where lighting is all about whatever you chose when you created that asset in VoxEdit, but also related to what is the lighting, the ambience in the experience, and what is the what are light sources nearby that might affect objects in vicinity. So will it be possible to use portals and physical objects like platforms in hubs, multi-user, or are they already usable? There are definitely some pieces of logic you can't use in a social experience right now because we don't have things syncing up, so it might look like someone is floating up in the air if they're going on a platform in their version versus your current, your future version where we want to make it so everybody can, take the platform, everyone sees it moving at the same rate. And if you miss it, then you have to wait for it to come back and someone is floating on the platform correctly. These things are being worked on and will come in a future version of GameMaker. So that is, for now, you just have to stick with those really strict rules. There's, I believe you're not supposed to use behaviors, platforms, anything, I believe spawning objects, these sorts of things are just for social hub rules for now. We're not calling it multiplayer right now because it's not true multiplayer yet until this new version comes up, but it is definitely in the works. How soon can we expect optimization now the big lands are very slow? So that's a thing probably for our game design team to answer, but I don't know if Level Design has any info on what's been going on with that. I think the newer version of GameMaker should help things run more smoothly. There's new features being added. You'll be able to see a lot more things in the next seasons that change, that add more of those features, so you can kind of get a taste of what those are like. But I know the size of the lands is a challenge trying to fit everything in, and I think we're trying to optimize that, but I don't know what the timeline is. And what if there's a conditional to let you combine two compatible behaviors? Also, is there going to be a search bar or a way to search an experience inside GameMaker? The search thing is not going to be a problem anymore. I believe that's taken care of with 0.7. And as for compatible behaviors, I'm not sure what the game design team is doing with that. I don't think that that's, like I said, I don't think that's where they're going with it. Will the new version of GameMaker be available for Linux? That's a good question. I know they're working on 0.7 for Mac and Windows, but I have not heard anything about Linux. And I think, no, I can't share that information yet. I'm not sure about 7.5. I can ask about that one to see what the plans are with that. But, a lot of people will just basically, set up a separate partition to run a different operating system to be able to do it if they're running Linux or just have a separate computer. So for now, that's what needs to be done. It took a while to get the Mac version to work the way we wanted, but it's, let's see, we're in a good place with that now. I think I'm at the bottom of the questions. And, if anyone has any different information that they think is more accurate, especially if someone on our team, if you know something more accurate than what I'm sharing, please jump in. So a lot of questions today are related to development because I think we're really excited about the next version of GameMaker coming out. Will the next version come with the new alpha season? Yeah, I think that's the plan, to have it launch with the next alpha. And this is the thing, you guys are creating a lot of high-end experiences and assets And so you really want to get ahead of the game and understand what is coming and when. But with this, and I always say this, we just want to make sure that it works just the way that it should. So we take that extra time to do the QA and just test it. Like our internal teams have been testing GameMaker 0.7 for a few weeks at least, most of us, but some of us have been testing along the way in different iterations of it, just to try and make sure that that everything lines up right, that we don't have to make people redo a lot of content in their games, that it does have that compatibility with previous games. Okay, with the next alpha, with a new alpha version new alpha season and version of GameMaker is going to be the new animations, as for example, the swim animation. I think the swim animation is coming with 7.5, but I think, let me see. There have been a lot of animations that have been added, and someone already spilled the beans, so I can tell you that there is a sit animation that you can use. I think you have to press X to sit, but I think there's new dances and things like that, and so your avatars can have a lot more fun in the space, be a lot more interactive. And I think it's possible to update. It's possible to update animations, anytime. So I think we tried out a couple of them and we said, oh, those need to be adjusted. But can I use assets larger than 512 voxels on my lands? Is it possible to sell such assets? That's an interesting question. For a model, and this is the thing, I've got to get the box edit guidelines up because I'm going to put this in the chat. So let me put this link in the chat for you. This is the box edit guidelines. So if you're talking about a simple entity, they have a smaller maximum size. If it's compound, then, that's where you get that 512 from, the maximum size that they could be in all three dimensions. So animated entities, obviously, you've got the maximum is actually only 256 in all three dimensions. So with these, you need to think about this. You can put multiple pieces together to build something. Like you could have a large modular piece of maybe if you want to make a landmark or a very large building, you could build those separate pieces. You could even get very clever about it and have multiple parts and hide models within it, and then use the display animation behavior, animated decoration, which is it? Sorry. Yeah, the behavior, animated decoration, you pick which animation to show, and it's a compound entity that doesn't have an animation like motion, but it has different animations listed. And in each of those, it really is just an arrangement of the models, whatever way you want. So I've seen someone create a library, like a bookshelf, and arrange those models in different ways and then hide them all inside of a cabinet underneath. And that shows, how you can sort of hide models and have different visuals of it. So you could have one asset that has multiple different versions available as animations where it's not animated, no motion involved. So that would be a compound entity, that maximum of 512. But that maybe you could sort of hide pieces of it inside of walls or something. And maybe you're making a building and you want to have like one section of the building. But the thing is, you can't see it unless you are in play mode. So it would be challenging to assemble. But if you wanted to sell it as a one-off asset that has everything to build something larger, it's possible. It's just a little complicated. It might even be better to just have a collection of each item and then people can build it from there. Our social hub is going to be available for everyone to create and play in the GameMaker. I'm not sure what you mean, Wilton.
Sorry, Becky. Hi, by the way. My question is because the other day we were trying to create a social hub. I have seen just one social hub in which you can actually play with other people stay in the same place with other people. It was created by Sandstorm. That's the only experience that I have seen in the game maker that I can be with other people at the same time and that is playable in the game maker. So I don't know if that's a feature that is kind of like unlocked for the Sandstorm team, or is something that can be played for like that everyone can create.
1 second, let me find something for you. Okay, so I'm wondering if you've seen this resource on building a social hub. So there are limitations, and we were talking about those before, but then it's basically someone just has to flip a switch to turn it into a social experience where multiple people can get in there and play. But you just have to let the team know that you want to build this and let people get in there. And, then someone on the team can set it to that. But it just has to pass the very specific limitations, the requirements to be able to get into that. And so, yeah, it's limited in what you can do. But Sandstorm's not the only one. There's actually quite a few. And they used to be, they'll kind of be featured occasionally, so you can find them more easily. But if you flip through, you can find there are quite a few social hubs that are in there.
Oh, perfect, Becky. Thank you. That was basically my question.
Great. I'm not sure who exactly to contact to get it set to a social hub, but yeah, that would be nice to know exactly which person to contact. But I think there might be, I'm wondering if there's a contact link somewhere in that thread. And then, just follow those rules and it shouldn't be a problem. I think getting, approval to be able to use it, as long as it's something that, is going to be used for a great purpose, then I don't see why not. Let's see, another question. Will it be possible to sell modular assets separately? Will they be allowed on the market? I've seen some modular pieces that like I've used to build larger like landmarks and structures and things. So I believe that they're working on being able to sell content in kind of like a collection. So that way you don't, that way someone can easily find the other pieces to be able to build it too. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But that's the marketplace is obviously it's evolving along with GameMaker and VoxEdit and the game client. So excuse me. So the marketplace, and I guess I should mention, the marketplace is going to be allowing UGC for everyone to be publishing pretty soon. It's all part of our shift to layer 2. So that should be something where, for the start, you'll be able to publish common items. So if you have something, especially I think if it's something with modular building pieces and they don't necessarily have to have gems and catalysts added for certain behaviors, then that would actually be a really good start if you want to put out, some, I think, architectural pieces. That might be a really good beginning point for marketplace strategy. Just a thought.